You know, you're going to introduce a good senator in a couple of minutes. I am so glad to see you, Patricia. I have been given a task to do by Rob, and Maria comes in, gives me a lot of work to do. I feel that I'm doing double time, triple time even, just to satisfy these two bosses. Don't you feel sorry for me? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, welcome to my life.
Except you have a lot of bosses.
A lot of bosses.
Yeah, when were you, this is Senator Patricia Rucker, also, by the way, obviously. When were you last in Charleston, Patricia?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Were you doing your swearing in again? You re-swearing in or what?
I did do that. I'm not sure if that was the trip 2 weeks ago. Yes, I think it was. Everything's running together. Okay. But yes, so I did get sworn in. I got an additional pin with the 3 diamonds now, you know.
Wow.
Does each diamond mean a new term?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You get 1 diamond per term. And if you are an appointed member, you will get one without any diamond.
Is it a real diamond?
I have no idea. Probably not. I don't think we have that much money.
That would be a pretty good expense there. Right? What or will your official positions and roles be in this upcoming session?
Oh, goodness gracious. Okay, well, I didn't write it down, but I am very honored. I'm going to be chair of government organization, a committee that I've never even sat on, but is very important, especially with the priorities of our new incoming governor. I also will be chair of the Rulemaking Review Committee, which I've talked to you guys before about how much I enjoy that committee and the work that committee does. I think is some of the most important work.
That committee, again, you said is
Rulemaking Review.
These are the folks that examine the laws on the books and see which ones we need, which ones we don't?
Well, Rulemaking Review examines the regulations and the rules that were created because of our laws. Okay. So West Virginia actually has what I think is one of the best reviews of regulations that I know of. So other states actually envy what we do. So every single rule and regulation that our state agencies create based on the laws that we write, and the rules and regulations are the how-to, right? So we say, we want you to have make certain people are not doing this. Then the agency writes how they're going to do it, what that means. What is it that the business or industry is going to have to do in order to comply with that law that we created? So those rules and regulations are written by the agencies after we pass our laws. Then it must go through a rulemaking review process that's over a year long. So it goes before the Rulemaking Review Committee. We look in depth at those regulations. Does it comply? Is it in the right sense really doing what we wanted it to do? Or is it going off the deep end and, hey, wait a second, this is way more than what we asked? It gives input to the industries and the businesses to tell us, hey, there's something wrong with this rule regulation. They're asking us to do this, and it's impossible to fulfill this, something like that. After the rulemaking review goes through those rules, we either make a recommendation to the full legislature to approve it. We might make amendments and changes. We might make a recommendation to not approve it and say, nope, not acceptable. Now, usually the agencies, if we tell them you must change the rule, they will change it. In very rare circumstances, do they, say, no, we're not. And then we're going to have a fight on our hands. But whatever happens from the Rulemaking Review Committee goes before the full legislature, and then it goes through the entire legislative process again, so that both the House and the Senate get to look at those rules, get to make changes, get to decide, and whatever they decide is what goes. So if we recommend changes and the agency says, no, we're not going to make those changes, the legislature says, yes, you will, and they will. They have to follow.
We kind of interrupted you there. You mentioned 2. You have other
I do have others, okay, but I love talking about the rulemaking. And I do think it's important for folks to know, in West Virginia, you do have this multi-chance opportunities to have a say in the rules and regulations. In terms of other committees, I am going to continue to be in Judiciary, which I'm really glad about. We'll continue to be in the Health Committee, 2 very important major committees. I will continue to be in Workforce, Agriculture, Natural Resources, and I am back in Transportation and Infrastructure, which I have not been on that committee since my 3rd year. So I'm really happy to be back on that. And
is you're missing Chestnut Hill Road?
Well, it's really funny because when I got elected and I had, began as a freshman senator, I was put on transportation and infrastructure, and I was really kind of scared about being on that committee because I knew absolutely nothing, not in my wheelhouse. But in that committee, first of all, I was the only female, which it does make a difference. I will tell you, it does make a difference to have a different perspective than most of the other senators there. And because I didn't know anything, I would ask a lot of questions. And you know what I discovered? It was embarrassing to me. I'm like, I don't know anything, so I'm just going to ask and I'm going to show my ignorance. But what I discovered is by asking those questions, not only did the vast majority of people listening and constituents, they were grateful that I asked those questions because they didn't understand it either, and it helped them understand what was going on. But also it made the agencies come before us and explain why they did what they did, which they hadn't been pressured about that. I think I actually made a really good contribution. And of course now I've been a senator for 8 years. I know a little bit more about the issue.
But the committee that you made your mark on is one you did not mention, education.
Yes.
Do you miss not being on education?
So I always will be very, very interested in education, but actually it's kind of interesting. So even though I'm not in education, my fellow senators have enough respect for my opinion that I have a lot of say in the bills that are going out of education. I still have every opportunity as all other senators to propose amendments, to write education bills, submit it, and let the education committee pass them. So my input in education still is happening, and actually more than you might think. But in addition to that, there's a whole lot of things I would like to fix in West Virginia. And I will tell you, like right now, like the focus is child welfare in general. So being on the health committee is kind of more important when it comes to the foster care issues that I'm really trying to tackle and the issues regarding the social services we need to provide for our kids. So, I still have plenty to say about education, but there's other things I also like to do.
Yeah. I'm sorry, go right ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, that's a lot of committees, though.
Yes,
and I
yes.
mean, granted, there's a much smaller number of senators than there are House of Delegates members. How do you balance, especially when you have a couple of chairmanships to do all that? I mean, it's a lot.
It's a great question. I am busy. And I will tell you, I'm not going to lie about that. If you come to see me down at the Capitol, you will find it's hard to find time. I have to squeeze appointments in among all the running around I do. But we also balance out the committee work. So you're not attending, I'm not going to 8 committees in one day. So usually there'll be 3 committees per day. So some meet Monday, Wednesday, some meet Tuesday, Thursdays. Some, like Judiciary, meet every day. But it's not 8 committees in one day. I will tell you that it is a little bit unusual when you are chair of a major committee to be on so many committees because the amount of work that you have to do as a chair is significant. But I've done it before.
Senator Patricia Rucker, our guest here on the program. Patricia, Governor Morrissey yesterday released information as to where he got the figure of a $400 million projected budget deficit. Can you tell me your feelings on whether you find those numbers to be realistic? Do you agree with the governor on those? Or is it not as bad or maybe even worse?
So I do think it's realistic. I will tell you, I've never shied away from telling the factual truth.
That's why I ask you.
I've never been in finance committee, and I've always found that the way that we do our finances, our budgeting, is questionable, and that's the nicest term I could use. It is, to me, not acceptable that we do push things off, that instead of having a budget that we says this pays for everything for this year, we say, we're doing a flatline budget, but we're going to have to do supplementals. And then, as you guys know, every single time that we have to do supplementals, we have to go into a special session that requires us to approve the supplementals going to this or that or that. And it's not optional. We're like, you can't consider salaries and benefits an optional thing. To me, supplementals is, hey, we have a little extra money. Why don't we give a little bit more to this agency for child welfare purposes? Or let's do an extra amount for homeless, things like that. That's
Are you saying you've had to do supplementals to cover salary and benefits for state employees?
Well, that is exactly what is happening, yes. And that is one of the things that I don't think is correct. Having said that, I've never been in a position to correct it. Not being a member of finance, I don't have much of a say. They come to us and they tell us, this is the budget. You need to approve it. They don't explain to us that they're not paying for certain things.
Who's they? Who is they?
The folks that are in charge of the budget, the folks
from the governor's office, or
No. We're talking legislative. I'm talking about my fellow chairs of finance that we have had in the past.
You're talking about Eric Tarr and his group.
Well, I mean, it just so happened that he was the last, but it has been happening for years. I'm not just blaming this on Eric Tarr. And again, it's every single time we get just the information that they want to tell us, and we do not get the explanations. So I'm just saying, you can say, like, you can actually criticize me. Well, you should dig down and you should find out and you should take the time. But of course, with all the other things I have to do, there's only so much energy I can give to it. I will tell you that I'm really looking forward to doing things differently. I like the idea that Governor Morrissey, wants to do things differently going forward and to focus on the future. I think that will go really well. I am really excited about Jason Barrett being the new finance chair in the Senate, and I have always found Jason to be extremely forthright. I expect that we're going to get much better explanations, and especially now that we have a governor who will always be so transparent. That press release or meeting that he had yesterday was really refreshing for me. I got more details than I normally get.
There was some thought, in just a second,
Okay,
but
sure.
there was some thought that Patrick was playing up a big deficit to set himself up better in his administration. For one, for further cuts, or two, for saying, look, when I took over, we had a $400 million deficit. Now look how well we're doing. So you're saying that, no, that's not it. It's legit.
So again, we in the Eastern Panhandle have known Patrick Morrissey for a significant amount of time. He does not mince words. I don't see him as someone who is trying to portray things differently just for some sort of political purpose. He doesn't really play to that. He's just a very forthright person. I also know that with Governor Morrissey, he is absolutely determined to find ways to do further tax cuts. So if he really wanted to continue the game as it has been played, he could very easily just be, the same thing that we've heard before. Oh, we're doing great. Oh, everything financially is wonderful, just so he could then continue to push for what he wants. I think him just being honest and forthright really puts us in a position where we have more trust in what's going on. And I'm looking forward to that.
Maria.
So I was going to ask, it's pretty evident what finance does, what judiciary does, what education. Talk a little bit about government organization, because we know it's an important committee, but tell us what that's all about.
Thank you. I'm like I said, I've never sat on government organization, so it's going to be.
And now you're the chair.
And now I'm the chair. It's going to be really fun. But government organization is essentially anything that has to do with the actual state government. So any agencies reform changes when they split up the Department of Health and Human Resources into three. Any kind of the agencies want to come and do something different than what they've been doing. They need permission from the legislature. Hey, we would like to do this or go into this area. Also, as we mentioned, the regulatory reforms all go through government organization. So the reason that I'm really excited is we know Governor Morrissey, as a major platform, wants to reform government and streamline it. Well, that will happen through this committee. So I will be in a position where I can really participate in that and advocate for the things we really need to prioritize and look into ways that we can get rid of things that are not going well, or that is really not fulfilling its mission. So I've been telling my constituents I'm going to be the new West Virginia Doge. And for folks to please reach out and let me know about things that need to be fixed, because I will be in a position to do that.
Let's circle back to prioritization. And you've mentioned child welfare a couple so times. Is there any issue in the state that is more important right now than fixing our child welfare problem?
So, in my humble opinion, no. Obviously, I think that is the most crucial. If right now, it's like we're bleeding out. We're just bleeding out. It is such a mess, and it is affecting every part of our state. It's affecting the education. It's affecting our future and our workforce. It's affecting the ability that we have to fund other things. So we really need to stop the bleeding. We really need to, I will tell you, we have done 4 foster care reform bills, and we still don't have a foster care system where we're getting people saying, yes, this is working well. Thank you. No, we're not getting that. There's still a lot of problems that folks are still reaching out to us about. And our judicial system is completely overwhelmed. As you know, we created a whole intermediate court of appeals, and some people said, oh, you're growing government. Well, the fact is we had to change where things get heard because it was so overwhelming. And when you're talking about children and families, that is not the thing you want to delay justice on, right? When families, for example, have been torn apart by our system because of things we're not doing correctly, and then they're trying to get their children back, I don't want to hear excuses for them being delayed for 2-3 years, and they're in foster care when they didn't need to be. That's one of the examples in which the state is at fault, right? And the same thing conversely. If a child is in a situation where they're in danger and we need to get them out of that situation, you don't want to hear that wasn't followed up on. And as you know, we had some tragic cases in this last year that, made the news, but there's a lot more cases that don't make the news.
Let me pick up on that. And this is a number I'm sure you do not know, but give me an approximation. What is the percent of the children that have fallen through the cracks that are not getting any attention at all from the state?
Well, if we knew that number.
I know. Yeah. Just give me your gut sense of how much it is.
I feel that it's a significant amount. We're not talking thousands, but it's definitely a significant amount. And I know that we have been trying to get better numbers from the Department of, CPS and Child Welfare. How many people are calling in and claiming that there's abuse, and how many of those cases are followed up on within 24 hours, 48 hours, et cetera, et cetera? How many of those actually end up being investigated? How many times is the child actually having to be removed from the home? These are basic numbers that I think are important for us to know so we have some idea of what you're saying. Which ones are falling through the cracks? How many of these are false reports? Some of them are really you don't have enough numbers to investigate, so that means we must get you help to get those investigations done. It's hard to get to the bottom of it when we're not getting those numbers, and that's a real problem. And this is a government agency. So if they're not giving the numbers to us, the legislature, what are they hiding, right? So I'm really very, very concerned. And I was very disappointed that we had a new head of the department that we thought was going to help us and be more transparent, and instead they continued the same. So I'm going to be hopeful that the person that Governor Morrissey has just appointed is going to be more cooperative, but there are more things that we're going to have to do to really make those things be more transparent so that we can help them. And that's the point. We're not trying to punish an agency. We want them to do their job. The best way that we can ensure that's happening is that we understand the problem.
Senator Patricia Rucker, our guest here on the program. About 5 minutes to go. Restore Sanity Act. You're the main sponsor of this, correct?
Yes.
All right. We all want to be sane.
We want to be sane. Tell us how we can be sane.
And especially we want Maria to be sane.
Well,
amen.
Restore Sanity Act. Yes.
Yeah.
So, you could call it the DEI, anti-woke. So there's all sorts of names people are calling it. But the reality is, I mean, can we get to the point where we stop inflaming the differences between us and just treat everyone the same? Like, that's really what the focus of it is. One of the things that has always bothered me, and I mean always, before I ever got into politics, when I was still in school, I really do not understand why it matters where you were born or what color your skin is. Every single time we had to take standardized tests, they make you bubble in. What is your race? What's your nationality? Why? Why does that matter? It shouldn't. I'm taking a test. I want to know how well I do on the test. Why does it matter what that particular statistics is, which I had nothing to do with? So not because of anything I did, I happened to be born in a different country and I happened to be of a different race, but I came here, I took full advantage of the greatest opportunities of a great education system could give me, and I can't even tell you. The idea that I got where I got because I'm a Hispanic is offensive. It's offensive to me. And it did happen. I happened to have gotten into the gifted and talented track early on in my public school career, and there were other students who just assumed that was the token Hispanic in that class. That's offensive. So I've always hated it. I just want you to know that. And when, as a legislature, I get letters from constituents telling me that they are in their place of employment, meaning they work for the state, and they're being told that they must sign these letters that they are affirming that their race had advantages that other races did not have, that they must work very hard to change the way they talk. Like, that is ridiculous. That is absolutely ridiculous. And of course, these people are offended that they must sign this in order to keep their job. So these are the kind of things that, as a legislature, it's my duty to address. And so this is one attempt to address it. It might not be the best attempt. There might be other ways.
What will the law do?
So this particular one basically says that you must not make anyone affirm something that there's racial advantages, that one race is better than another, that I can't read the whole thing, but there's like 7 things it says you cannot do in this state, in any public institution, state institution of education. And I know that it doesn't address, outside of education. Mine is narrowed to that, but that's where I find it the most offensive, to be honest. But I will also say that there may be better ways to handle this. Governor Morrissey, as you know, made an executive order basically saying we will not have any DEI, and that's going to end. And he charged all of the agency heads to be looking at any policies that are, derived from DEI and to eliminate it. Mine is a little bit more specific than that.
We have about 30 seconds left. If you have a final question for Patricia, make it a quick one.
Yeah,
That's not a quick one, Bill.
Yeah, no. Is DEI a real problem in West Virginia?
I think it could be, yes.
But no. Is it? Not it could be, but is it?
So fortunately not everywhere, but I do know of these cases, like I tell you, in certain places.
When do you head to Charleston?
Actually, next week.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Senator Patricia Rucker, this is Talk Radio, WRNR Martinsburg and TV10. We are back with more after these.